Hi everyone, it's Michael. So one of the questions I get asked all the time is how long does an orchid take to adapt to semi-hydroponics once it's been converted? And what do the stages look like? So rather than speculating or rather than speaking hypothetically to you, I want to give you a real example. So to do that, I went out and purchased this orchid today from a garden center. I got it off the clearance rack. It's just a good old-fashioned white Phalaenopsis. It's a Sogo Yukidan. But I am going to be following this orchid's conversion for the next 4 months and giving you updates periodically. So you can see today is July 26th, and this is its current state. The orchid is happy and generally pretty healthy. It's got some juicy roots, but here is my bet. I would almost put my life on the fact that almost all of this is going to completely rot away. And then a new root system will begin to emerge right up here. So we'll check in on this a little bit later and give you all of the updates. We began the process of converting this orchid on July 26th, and it is now August 13th. So we're about 18 days in. Now you can see a lot of the things that I projected to happen are happening. The bottom 2 leaves are beginning to yellow, and they'll eventually drop. They're not quite ready to go, so I'm not going to force it. That's not good for the orchid. But also, if you take a look at the root system, it's changed a bit as well. What were once juicy, luscious roots are now beginning to wither and decay. Now, this is the part of the process that really freaks people out, but there's no need to panic. Especially with Phalaenopsis orchids, this will happen because these roots are not physiologically equipped to deal with a semi-hydroponic environment. So these will rot out and new roots will come in its place. So please don't go ahead and freak out and pull your orchid out of semi-hydro and try to repot it into bark medium. That's definitely going to kill it. It's going to stress your orchid out too much. The other thing I want to call your attention to is the mold that is growing right around the top of the container and, well, it's starting to form on the bottom. Now this mold will happen without fail because it is decaying matter. Don't panic, that's just the nature of things. And the way that you can respond to this is one of 2 things. You can flush the system with water, which will take some of that decaying matter and flush it out through the drainage holes. Or you can pull the entire plant out, clip off the dead and decaying root system, but I would not always advise doing that. Some people get overzealous, and again, overhandling the orchid is going to stress it out too much. So unless the mold in the container becomes super excessive, you don't need to go ahead and pull it out and clip off the roots. Just continue to flush the decaying matter through the drainage holes, and you should be just fine. So let's check in again in a little while, and we'll see how this continues to evolve. It's August 22nd, which means we have been in the process of converting this orchid to semi-hydroponics for almost a month. Now this is a question that comes up a lot. Hey, there are a lot of rotting roots in my container. Am I supposed to remove them or should I leave them be? Now this is a personal judgment call. If it's just a few rotting roots, it's really not going to harm the plant. And over time, as you flush your hydroponic system, the decaying matter will be flushed out through the drainage holes slowly but surely. But if you have a lot of decaying matter, that can kind of make you more vulnerable to a whole host of other problems. In this case specifically, I've left the roots alone up until this moment because it hasn't really posed any problems. But I've started to notice that there is an abundance of fruit flies around, which means that they are starting to feast on that decaying matter, and that can potentially escalate or bring other problems. So now I am making the informed decision to go ahead and remove the rotting roots. So I'm going to unpot this guy. I'm going to clip off all of the dead decaying matter, and I'm going to pot with some fresh leca pellets. Now if I take you in closer on the root system, you can see what I'm talking about. Look how mushy and hollow these are. So that's not constructive to the plant, and you can see very clearly where the viable roots are, so I'm going to clip away everything that is not serving the needs of this plant. And this is all that's left once I've removed all of the decaying matter. So now I'm going to go ahead and rinse this off, give it a quick spritz with hydrogen peroxide, and get it potted up in fresh leca. The 15-minute hydrogen peroxide treatment is done. I gave the root system a quick rinse, and in the process, the yellowing leaf fell off all by itself, which is exactly what we're looking for. You never want to force it along. And the orchid has been fully repotted. So now we can continue on with the adaptation process and see how things unfold from here. Alright guys, today is October 25th, and it seemed like the perfect opportunity to give you roughly the 3-month update. We started this process on July 26th, so we're about 3 months in. And I do want to show you everything that I've said would happen is happening. So right at the top, you can see by the crown of the plant, there's tons of new green root tips and new growth, which is fabulous because we trimmed off all of the dead and decaying root matter, which also was to be expected. Now the same thing is happening on the opposite side. There's tons of new root growth, which is fabulous. But also, down in the medium, we have this going on, which is such a treat. Plenty of new green root tips. So we're actually almost done with this video. I will touch base with you one last time at the 4-month mark so you can really see what the adaptation process looks like over time. And hopefully this plant will have been fully adapted to semi-hydroponics when I do so. Can you believe that we are at the end of this 4-month adaptation process? I repotted number 15 in my collection, my Sogo Yukidan Phalaenopsis, on July 26th of this year, and it is now November 26th. So this orchid has had 4 months to adapt. And that was the objective of this entire video, is to kind of give you a snapshot of exactly what happens in that critical beginning period. We've seen a few key things happen. We've seen the old root system rot out. We've seen the bottom leaves yellow and fall off. And we have clipped off the dead and decaying media to facilitate the development of new roots. So now I'm going to take you in so you can see exactly what's happening with this plant because it is well on its way to a very happy life. Now I'm going to tilt it this way. I'm probably going to get water on the floor. But look at how luscious those new roots are. Now if we flip it to the back, you can see that the roots that are coming in on this side are continuing to develop. As a matter of fact, they're continuing to kind of now start wrapping themselves into the container. And things just look generally really, really good. But it's imperative that you go through this process with an open mind because when you see how much rot is happening, when you see the mold kind of developing in the container, it's so easy to panic and say, you know what, this isn't good, it's not good for my plants. But you have to stay strong and you have to just allow the plant to go through its adaptation. Now, something to be said, this process in terms of the roots really decaying and becoming really awful and moldy, that seems to happen with only a few types of orchids. It happens in a really pronounced way with my Phalaenopsis. It happened with my Ascocenda. It happens sometimes with Paphiopedilums. It happened with my Phragmopedium. But in terms of Oncidium types and intergenerics, I've never quite seen the root systems go that bad. As a matter of fact, the old roots never quite rot out. They just don't work as well as the new roots that grow in its place. However, for Oncidiums and intergenerics and all of the other orchids that I described, it follows the same template in terms of the development of new roots on that timeline. So it usually will take around 4 months for you to see the plant to start getting comfortable in semi-hydroponics. I hope that this has been informative for you, and I hope that when you begin the process of transitioning your plants to semi-hydroponics, this gives you some peace of mind. When you see all of these setbacks unfold, just know that things will resolve themselves. You just have to be patient and make the right choice. Thank you guys so much for choosing to spend your time with me. If you have any questions, concerns, comments, please go ahead and leave them in the comment section below. I love you guys so much, and I hope you have a beautiful rest of your day. Bye.